Resentment. Most people think it begins with anger. But anger is usually the last thing to arrive. Before anger comes disappointment. Before disappointment comes expectation. And before expectation comes hope. Hope that someone will notice. Hope that someone will understand. Hope that someone will see what remains unspoken. We rarely say these things aloud, we simply believe they should know. They should know we are struggling. They should know we need help. They should know this matters to us. And when they don't, something begins to change. Not all at once, quietly, almost unnoticed. A small hurt, a small disappointment, a small story we begin telling ourselves. If they cared, they would know. If they loved me, they would understand. If I mattered, I wouldn't have to ask. And so the expectation grows, not because it was spoken, because it was hoped. The truth is, no two people experience the same relationship, not completely. No two people carry the same memories, the same fears, the same needs, the same understanding. And no one sees you exactly as you see yourself. Just as you do not see them exactly as they see themselves, yet somehow we expect them to know what we have never said, to understand what we have never explained, to answer questions we have never asked. And when they don't, resentment arrives, not because they intended harm, but because reality failed to meet expectation. Does not make the hurt less real, but it may make it easier to understand. Perhaps the person who disappointed you was not refusing to see your needs. Perhaps they never saw them, not because they didn't care, because they were looking through their own eyes, living inside their own story, carrying burdens you could not see. Communication is one of the hardest things we ask of one another. Not because words are difficult, because vulnerability is. It is easier to hope someone will notice, easier to believe they should know, easier to wait for understanding to arrive on its own. But relationships rarely thrive on assumptions. They thrive on truth, the truth about our needs, the truth about our fears, the truth about what matters to us. No matter how deeply we care for one another, no one lives inside our thoughts. No one sees the world exactly as we do. No one carries our story in quite the same way, and that is why communication matters. Not because it guarantees understanding, but because it creates the possibility of it. The possibility that someone might finally see what remained hidden. The possibility that an expectation becomes a conversation, that disappointment becomes understanding, and resentment becomes compassion. Perhaps that is the quiet truth. Most resentment is not born from cruelty. It is born in the distance between what was hoped for and what was understood. Communication does not guarantee understanding, but understanding rarely happens without it.